Okay, so today we are going to talk about quadratic formula. So I want you to try to solve this one. Okay, so how are you going to solve, how have we done this in the past? So think back, there's an x squared, an x, and a number. It equals to 0 already. I hope you all remembered we are going to do x box. So let's remember 2x squared negative 12, 24x squared negative 5x. So that means it's going to be negative 8x and 3x. This is 2x, and then 3, double check everything. So then I have x minus 4, 2x plus 3 equals 0. And I set each of those equal to 0. Oops, minus 3 equals negative 3 divided by 2, negative 3 over 2. Okay, so we've done that. Now that you remember that, let's try this. So once you get here, you realize, oh wait, nothing multiplies to 8 that adds to 13. So there's nothing we can do, and this is the only way we know how to solve these until now. So if you remember, we have the quadratic formula. So it's used to solve for x in quadratic equations in standard form. So this is standard form when it's when y equals 0, so it's when a 0 equals, and then there's an x squared, an x, and a number. And a, b, and c are your numbers in front of all of those x's. Then you put in the a, b, and c into your equation. It's called the quadratic formula. And then we can solve. So I always, when I look at a problem, first, you got to make sure it equals 0, but then I find my A, I find my B, and I find my C. So then I start putting it into all of the pieces in my formula. So this is going to be helpful for the ACT, pre-ACT that you will be taking. So this quadratic formula will work every time. Factoring only works sometimes. So you can memorize this formula and use it every single time and it works. It's just a little bit longer than factoring, I think. So this is opposite of B. So if B is positive, that means it makes it negative. If B is negative, it would make it positive. So then this is a plus and a minus. So that's where you get your two answers. So then I have my square root of 13 squared minus 4 times my A, which is negative 4, times my negative 2, which is my C, all over 2 times negative 4. So now what you are going to do in your calculator is you are going to take the 13 squared get out Desmos here. So you are going to take 13, not 23, 13 squared minus 4 times negative 4 times negative 2. So I'm going to rewrite square root of 137, and then I can do 2 times negative 4 in my head, which is negative 8. So the tricky part of quadratic formula is the order of operations. So in order to help with that, you find what's under the square root, and now you take negative 13 plus the square root of 137. And what's great about Desmos is that you can just plug all of that and divide it by negative 8. So I get my first answer of 0.162. And then I can change that to a minus because there's a plus and a minus. And I get 3.088. So you will always get 2 answers for the quadratic formula. One is a plus the square root, one is the minus square root. And there you go. So now, let's see if you can just solve. Plug A, B, and C, find A, B, and C, and plug it into the formula. So pause the video, see if you can find A, B, and C, and plug it in. Okay, so you should have gotten this piece done. So find your A, your B, and your C, and then you are plugging it in. And remember, our first step of doing this is to put what's under the square root in your calculator. And so I did that, and I got 37. So 5 squared, negative 5 squared, and we got to make sure to put parentheses around that because that should be a positive number, minus 4 times negative 1 times 3. Okay? So I get 37. So this is the square root of 37. And then you can do negative 1 times 2 on your head. So then what you are going to do is you are going to plug in 5 minus the square root of 37 divided by negative 2. So I get x equals, what is that? 0.541. And then negative 5.541. So it's kind of nice that once in Desmos it saves everything, so then all I have to do is change my A, B, and C in different places, so then it just saves for all of those. Okay? Alright, what I want you to do is see if you can do this one all on your own, to see if you can find your A and your B and your C, and then find eventually, your goal is to find 2 x values. Okay? So just like we did here, you found 2 x values, so your goal is to find 2. Okay, so you should have gotten here and realized your calculator does not do the square root of negative 119. Well, we just learned that yesterday or 2 days ago. So you just learned what square root of a negative number is, and that is I. So when you get that, all you can do is you are going to, square root of 119 is an icky number. So the square root of 119, you can just leave as square root of 119. We like nice numbers. So you're going to pull out an I, that's your negative, square root of -1, right? So this is your two answers. So there's a plus and there is a minus for your problem. So same thing here. We are going to, let's just do one together. So that means x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. So remember to don't put a square root. You're just putting in these numbers. So you are just putting in 7 squared, -3, and -9. So that means it's a square root of -59. Well, that means that there is a negative square root. So that means that there is a I, square root of 59 is not a nice number. Otherwise, if it was like 25, it would become 5I, right? So there is my two answers of plus and a minus. Okay? So that is quadratic formula. You will now get a pairs check to work with your elbow partner to work on doing the quadratic formula. Okay? So here, just if you need to pause the video on the quadratic formula, so then you have it. You don't have to memorize it at this point. We won't be testing on the quadratic formula, but like I said, ACT, MCA, you probably needed it. So there's things that, different things that come up when you are solving, especially in the future in your math classes. Okay?